Hello and welcome. It's Thursday night. You know what that means? It's Thematically Speaking. We speak to people in and around the theme park and attractions industry. And today we're talking Theme Park Fan, the musical, and where it goes from here. So without further ado, I'll introduce them one by one. We've got the main man himself, Nick Hudson, the maestro. We've got Ryan Nixon, the main lead. And we've got Kieran Quinn. He does everything else. How are you all doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us all on. It's been nice to talk about it again.
I don't know how much of it you're going to remember.
Not much.
So if we start at the beginning, say, and I don't know if Nick wants to take this question, but where did the genesis of the idea sort of start for the musical itself? Was it your idea?
It was. Was it? I always start this question with when did Icon open, because that's when this all started, wasn't it? So that was 2018.
I think so, yeah. Or DaggerCon, as it was called, because it looked like a dagger, didn't it?
DaggerCon.
Or Enzo. And so I remember before going to the press day for that, I wrote a song called "I'm a Theme Park Fan," which, you know, I don't know whether you know that or not.
When did you write that? I've seen that. I've seen you singing it on YouTube, yeah.
That was 2018, the morning before I went to the Blackpool press event. I sat in the room next door and wrote it. Hadn't done the music, just the lyrics. And I remember showing it to my friend Adam from Theme Park World Tour, and he said, "This is the best thing ever. This is so funny." So I thought, okay, well, I'll work on that. I did, released it, it went well. And then everyone kept saying to me, "When are you going to do something else with it?" And then the world ended in 2020, so we were all looking for things to do creatively. And I just thought, do a theme park musical about Blackpool, and kind of, it was never the plan, but it just so happened that we could eventually release it on opening weekend, a musical about people at opening weekend, starring the people that would normally be at opening weekend, not at opening weekend. And it just kind of became this weird meta thing. What's your version of it, Ryan? Because this is like Chinese whispers. Everyone has a different story.
I mean, I don't know where to start. There's a song that made it into the musical that I'd heard before. I think... oh my god, the Theme Park Friends That We Earned, that is one of the, I think it's the penultimate number of the show.
Yes.
What I'd heard in a version a while back.
Oh yes, that was the kind of the Alton Towers song, wasn't it?
Yes. And then flash forward to God knows how many months, and I remember I was visiting London, and I happened to be visiting Nick, and he was like, "Oh, there's this idea for the show," and he started playing me some things. I was like, "That's really, really cool." And then all of a sudden, it just snowballed from Owen then got involved. And I don't know who then got involved next. I think Dylan, then Kieran came on board. And it went from 0 to 100 very quickly.
Owen.
Yeah. Owen Burton says hi.
Hello. A big enthusiast.
Yeah. It was so bizarre this whole time. And we were blessed with lockdown, because I always say without lockdown, it wouldn't.
I was going to say, was that more of a blessing than a curse?
Absolutely.
Was that the driving force behind it? Are you starting it?
I'm not sure what the driving force behind it was, other than to annoy a lot of people. But it was, because I did a musical for a podcast called Coaster Radio years ago, and I've always thought musicals and if you like theme parks, you generally like musicals because they're the same thing. It's just you don't get charged to sit extra in seats at Spin, but that's a different story. But it's unless it's Cinderella. It just became it. If you like theme parks, you like theatre because it's storytelling through scenery, lighting, set design, actors. It's the same discipline. Whether you're creating a theme park ride or whether you're creating a piece of theatre, it's the same thing. So it always made sense to me that these two worlds should combine. And then when you put that into the fact that a lot of people who are in the community also can do musicals and love musicals, it then became a thing much bigger than it was, because it was originally just going to be a concept album sung by Owen. because he's wonderful at voices and he can play instruments better than I can, and it was just going to be that. And then it became a thing of like, I think it became too much for Owen to handle. So I said, right, let's branch out. So then I got Dylan on board, and he reached out to a wonderful singer called Leah, who became Costa Cassie. So we were able to work her roles. And then Ryan, of course, not Orion, Ryan, of course, you came on board.
Star,
and exactly.
Who got Ryan on board?
I did, I think.
Yeah,
did you always have him in mind when you decided it was going to be musical rather than a...
It just became... So I was writing songs and Ryan would kind of comment on them because he understands the whole kind of acting ways more than I do. So he would say, could the character do this? And you just became Jamie in a way, didn't you?
It felt... It at a certain point when we were putting the story together, Jamie and myself very much became far more intertwined than I think anybody probably would like initially with a character, but it lends itself, I think, because it is such a big part of my life in terms of the coasting community anyway, and obviously a big part of Jamie's life. I don't really know what else to say. I feel like I'm rambling about that. And
then it became of, why don't we employ Ryan's immense vocal range and give him those big D flats that he's always wanted to sing as Elphaba in Wicked. And then it became, what musical theatre references can we put in this show? And yes, there's cut songs. There's a German song I wrote, which was kind of a Kurt Weill cabaret thing, which never made it in. There's a kind of...
that'll be on the CD as an extra.
Yeah, that'll be on the cut. And there's other silly songs as well. But it became... It was when Dylan really came on board. And in those last 2 months... It was a real whirlwind of kind of creativity, and it was a really amazing energy. And that's where Kieran stepped in, wasn't it? Because you originally were just going to do some voices, which is very helpful. And then what happened, Kieran?
Yeah, so I came on board to do a couple of ensemble pieces, and then a couple of cameos as well, which was nice. And then as we were having a creative conversation about where is this album going to go, and the obvious answer was YouTube. You can do live streams on there. So we sort of set the date and came about in this conversation of, well, it's around about a 2-hour long show. People aren't going to want to stand and just look at a logo for 2 hours on the internet whilst in lockdown, whilst there's other things around them.
50 minutes, actually, but it might have felt like 2 hours at some time.
Yeah. I mean, I've listened to it probably more than anybody, as Nick will know, just to get the little details right. It's enjoyable every single time. But yeah, it became this more, what can we do to heighten the experience whilst people are watching this? And so we came up with this idea collectively to have maybe set scenes. So we'll sort of set the scene of, okay, well, it's in Blackpool. Should we have something from Blackpool there? And then I think I just suggested, well, look, we've got about 3 weeks. It's got to be quick and simple because we don't have a lot of time.
So
could we do a set? Had
you finished the recording before you set a deadline?
No.
You were working against that as well. It wasn't just the backdrop. You were still having to record.
We were still making a lot of cuts at that time.
Due to certain Hollywood actors, it was taking a lot longer than we would have hoped. But
yes, that also
it was very, very close to the wire, but it was ultimately worth it. I think we were making edits to the video the very last minute, because if something changed in the audio, like adding Neil Patrick Harris, for example, then the whole video had to change.
I don't know if we want to...
And that required at least 3 people's effort, because I had the master of the set, the lighting, which I also did for the show. Then it had to go over to Nick, and anything that needed to be animated also needed to go to somebody else whose name is...
Sean from Parts.
Sean from Parts. So it was like playing Russian roulette with, okay, this has been sent over. I need to listen to it. I then need to make the edits. I need to make sure that Nick's happy with the edits. Nick then approves it, sends it off to Sean, gets it in. And then we have the other creative process of, I'm not sure if I like that shade of blue. Backward and forth of We've literally got 2 days, and
Yeah.
just redoing it all.
Do you have a little chart like when you go paint shopping?
Oh God, I've got
That would have been
Royal-
helpful.
stack of
Is
like
this the
little
brand blue, or is
A4
that the brand blue? We don't know.
Oh, literally. Oh, yeah, that was another.
I was going to ask about Neil Patrick Harris later on, but before I ask about that, something you mentioned earlier that kind of intrigued me was when you said you did some voices as well as cameos. So were you cameoing as yourself as well as a character as well?
No, Kieran played
I know
Jack Franciscan, which
Yes.
has nothing to do with Francis Jackson from Alton Towers.
No.
But you also just did some kind of general Les Mis style singing for the kind of Act 1 finale, didn't you? And you just doing little background chats and things.
We were all sort of included in every song throughout the show, and we also had cameos thrown in there. But obviously, I myself, being a voice artist, was just able to go, okay, well, let's take this song and do a different character into it to give the effect of being more people involved in this community. Because out in the street, when you go out into a theme park, there's people of all walks of life in there, different ages. So we really tried to play that into them. So instead of just singing the song as me, I'd sing it as a Jeff from down the road. Oh, yeah, isn't it great? Oh, I love theme parks. And it just became more of an ensemble. And Owen as well was doing that. So between me and Owen, we probably came up with like another 10 characters to overlay.
You could do a show
Not
on
all
your
of
YouTube
them-
channel with that.
Well, yeah, not all of them
We have.
made the songs because it had to be lyrically nice as well.
Yeah.
But certainly there's a lot of different takes of different.
So how did
voices in
Neil
there.
Patrick Harris get involved? Or I wasn't sure if you must have got him involved in us somehow through some way of getting in touch. But when I first watched the musical, I wasn't sure if you just got permission to use a random recording because it was very short. What was that?
It was very short. And your question earlier about, lockdown making things possible, everyone was sitting at home. So you have suddenly Neil freaking Patrick Harris, the host of the Oscars, with time on his hands. So he loves theme parks and he loves theatres, and through various circumstances, I know Neil and he's a fan of my podcast and stuff like that. So I was able to shoot off an email, and he replied and said, "Sure, how's this?" And he just recorded the lines in a studio, and it was at that moment, there was a couple of moments where I think we as a crew just went, "What the frick is this about?" And
Did you expect it when you put the feelers out for it, like when you asked?
I didn't, but then you think, why would you say no? All he has to do is record 5 lines, and that's his bit done. He's made a lot of people happy. Same with John Wardley. That's a bit easier to get because he is retired, so he is sitting at home. And it adds so much into the kind of the gravitas of the piece, or getting the logo designed by John Burton, who designs all the stuff at Thorpe Park and Towers and things. That adds another level of gravitas to the piece. And then just the list of cameos that we, when I watch it, I still love the credits at the end because it's just every single person in the UK community is in that list.
And I think it goes to show as well how much of a good sport people are when it came down to this project. It was for charity as well, and I think people just bit the bullet and went, "Absolutely, I'm down to support this," and just it was incredible, really, to get all these different people involved.
And it was a technical marvel as well, especially as Ryan is concerned, who had so much to record and so much in the studio. It would have been easier, but you were kind of moving your Mac into the tent in the garden, weren't you? And kind of just
I think that side of it. I mean, lockdown was a massive blessing for it, but that side of it for me personally was the curse, because I don't have nice setups and stuff to be able to record anything. So I was picking up my iMac, going outside because we have a detached garage to make sure the sound was better and not as sort of like, I don't know, echoey, and recording everything down there. And because of the amount of dialogue that was needed on my behalf, it's hard as an actor. It's gonna be a little bit jumbled now, but as an actor, most of that is reacting. And when you take that fundamental thing out of it, because you've got nobody to react against, it then becomes a really difficult thing in terms of like line recording. So bless Nick and Owen and Dylan and Kieran probably heard all of these as well. I would be sending like page 36 dialogue X, and it would be like 3 or 4 different takes of that one piece of dialogue, and then it then became a battle with myself as to try and record as much as possible in one evening, rather than actually going, is this something I'd be happy with sending across? So then a lot of re-recording would then come into play, and it was just that side of it was hard.
But I have to give credit to Dylan here, who directed it, because he would listen to the recordings and he would make it easier for me and say, use take 5 to go with Leah's take, and it will sound natural. I think it really did sound like we were all in the room together. And it was a hard task editing all that together. Not so much the voice, the dialogue, that was easy, but when you're sent vocal recordings of people who cannot sing, and you make it sound like no one in this room included. I'm talking about
you're talking about the cameos.
Yeah, but people like Kieran can sing. Ryan certainly can sing. I can't sing, so I didn't put any of my singing in. But admittedly, there are a lot of people. My friends Chris and Nikki are not singers, but I made it work. There's a lot of tools you can do to splice things and pitch things, and it really does sound like there's a group. And Owen was marvelous at just coming up with ensemble line after ensemble line and vocal arranging. Like there's a song in it called "The Gospel According to Goons," where he is singing every part in that choir, and it sounds like sort of 30 girls as well. And it just, such an incredible talent, and he really was the 60% of the audio production was down to him, and I'm so grateful for what he did. I was going to say,
I really like, the references and Easter eggs that are in there, but also like just the language you're using, like goons, and the enthusiasts are going to understand that.
Well,
did you ever feel like that was going to alienate people who weren't enthusiasts? Or
well, goons is a word that I've only
we've
ever
had
heard
debates
Ryan.
about this.
Yeah, there are 2 ways you can look at the musical. If it was written for a group of people that got it, they might not have got everything, but they got it. But also, if you look at Jamie as a character and you don't understand the musical, you are seeing the world through his eyes. And if and when we expand this piece and make it bigger, we will focus a lot more on that, because you really have to put the audience in Jamie's shoes and make it be like, what the heck is this world all about? And eventually you will learn. The best example of that is Book of Mormon, which doesn't make fun of the Mormons. They're just ridiculous anyway. And we are learning what it's like from the Mormon community. And I don't think we made fun of Coast Enthusiasts at all. We talked about in the Spoons number, would they do the roller coaster handshake? Yeah.
I thought that was my favourite song. I thought that
and do you know what? It's funny, because I when Nick got me involved, I listened to Carnival of Dreams, which is in its very early infant state. And then the second one I listened to was at the bar, and I was like, sold, sign me up. It was just, and it's still my favourite number in the thing.
Just, even
such a good number.
It's hard to say, because I already know that we do that. I've not done it in a few years, but it's as much as Alton Towers fireworks is the end of the season for me. That's always got to be the end of the season. I don't always do it at the start of the season, but the start of the season to me is always Blackpool in February.
Yeah,
and it's always the enthusiasts that go, and that song encapsulates what they there.
And what was lovely, what was really fortuitous about that song and that moment was it's at the emotional high point of the show, I think, and B, if the show started at 7:30 at night, that song happens at sort of 8:05 in the evening on the Saturday of opening weekend, when everyone would have been at Spoons having that moment. So that's why it became this really kind of lovely community moment when, there were 1,000 people watching it online at YouTube at that time, and everyone was going, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And another weird moment for all of us was when Wetherspoons approved the song and wrote about it in their magazine. And I was getting photographs sort of for months on end. People say, I found the article about the musical in Wetherspoons. And
I have to make a confession about this.
Yeah,
I went to every Spoons that I could when we were allowed to. and every magazine that was there, I would open up to the page and then leave the table open on Theme Park Fan's articles. So when people sat down, that was the first thing that they saw.
Was there a photo of you as well? So you were sat there looking at them.
No.
They look up and go, that's the guy from the musical.
No. If there was, I would have drawn the mustaches on 4 people. Yeah.
But again, it's things like that makes the whole thing so surreal. Being on BBC television, being on BBC Radio Lancashire, being on Heart FM, telling Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden about the musical, the smell. It's just everything.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting any of that, and that's what's been so lovely about the piece.
Did you want to talk about wasn't it a candle?
It was a
fragrance pod.
It was a kind of fragrance pod, and you just open it and spray.
Oh, okay.
We did talk to Aroma Prime about doing a candle, but I think it was the cost of it, because it was for charity. They do candles, or wax melts, or whatever they're called. But I think it's probably just cheaper just to make a spray, and it just another thing to add to the experience, because that's what it's all about.
The experience. It's immersive. Yeah.
You know, when I hear it's about the experience, it reminds me takes me back to 2012 when we all just went on Subterra for the first time.
Oh, my goodness.
Such a long time ago.
I love that attraction. It's coming back, apparently.
Well, because it's close.
No, I really, really love Subterra. I did feel it was the most complete experience that Towers had outside of Scarefest. And it was just insane. That ride was just insane. From the minute that clock started, it was just nuts. But I love that ride.
Did you not feel it was a bit... I don't know. I felt sometimes the staff enjoyed taking it too far with the militarization of it and the regimented way they spoke to people.
That's all part of the experience, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they said about the...
I remember once I was in the bit where you had to stand in rows.
Yeah.
And an actor came up to me and said, "Stop smiling, you're not at the sanctuary." And I thought that was such a nice, clever kind of Alton Towers lore moment that he put into there. And it's the most... I mean, you could say the same about Disney. They go that far. It's very rarely something we see from UK parks because they're so scared to do kind of any shouting at guests or anything. You wouldn't get it nowadays, I don't think.
I always sometimes get the impression they're too scared to invest in something they don't believe in themselves.
Don't know. We're getting into the dangerous world of theme park.
with the everyone's welcome at the bar, were you worried that would peak? The musical would peak there almost because everyone was falling in love with that song, and after that it might.
There tends to be a moment in every musical where you need a number like that. So a good example is Be Our Guest in Beauty and the Beast, or Ryan, can you think of any others, or Master of the House in Les Mis, where you need a kind of it's a song everyone can relate to, and the song is about, every single song in this musical, whether you realise it or not, is about coming together. And that song is the most kind of, it's literally saying everyone's welcome at the bar, apart from Jamie, who feels that he can't handle it because all he wants to do is become famous. And it's the most joyous number, I think, in the whole show. But I think, for me, the most joyous moment is the finale, because it's just, it's the bit everyone's been waiting, well, it's not everyone, it's the bit 3 people have probably been waiting for, which is when the Theme Park Fan song happens, because it never happens fully in the show until the finale. Yeah. And we tease it through many, many moments in the score. Like, there's a whole song built around it called For All the World to See, which is Jamie's I Want number. The whole of that song underneath is da-da-da, da-da-da, which is the brass thing from Theme Park. So there's little nuggets of it hidden throughout. And then finally in the finale, I'm a theme park. Ryan will do a better job than I can, but it's kind of...
Those days are over.
It's kind of hinting as little nuggets covered in breadcrumbs with that, hinting at that moment.
I know.
So,
yeah. What it kind of reminds me of, it's not the same thing, but I don't know if you're going to appreciate this. In Muppets Christmas Carol, he has the song at the end about being happy and stuff. I can't remember now how it went.
With a joy,
but it had the same sort of tune as the sad song his girlfriend, his wife sang when she left him. Yeah,
which they
Love
cut
is
from
gone.
the films.
Yeah,
so it makes no sense. So what they do is in Muppet Christmas Carol they do When Love Is Found, and Theme Park Fan is
found.
Da, 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 da.
Do you want to know a secret life hack for that film?
It's on the director's
It's on the Region
cut
1 DVD. If you go to widescreen,
it's meant to be on Disney Plus though. Soon they're going to put the full director's cut on it, which is good.
That would be good.
The funny thing is, Disney Plus has a documentary on the film page about how important that song is, and they don't have the cut with the song in.
It must be a rights issue. I don't understand, or maybe
no. He thought apparently they thought it was going to slow the pace of the film down originally. That's why they didn't put it in.
I've heard this too, but I don't know. But even with or without it, it's the best Christmas film hands down. And if anyone says anything different, I'll fight you in the comments.
You're wrong. But also, they nearly cut Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz for the same reason, because they thought it slows it down. So if you can imagine a world, you can imagine a world without that song. It'd be a horrible place to live. But to go back to your point, what you were saying, that's kind of it. You are kind of introducing songs, and there's obviously We're Theme Park Fans on YouTube is everywhere in that show, and even Ryan would hear it was Everyone's Welcome at the Bar, and I think you heard it for the 9 millionth time, and then you even noticed it in there for the first time in the dance. But it's like, oh my god, it's there. And yeah, but that's kind of. That's how you write a proper musical. You're hinting at musical themes. You're bringing.
And it sounds familiar when it comes up, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's. Yeah, I mean, you take an idea of a lyric and you twist it round on its head to mean something completely different, which is When Love Is Found and When Love Is Gone. That's what they do. Did we do that in the show? I can't remember. No, I can't think of any examples, but it has been so long. But I guess the Carnival of Dreams has a kind of bitter reprise of We're Theme Park Fans. What is the lyric? We hate theme park fans on YouTube. Berate theme park fans on YouTube. So it's kind of, but then his character is Theme Park Fan on YouTube. So anyway, I'm rambling. Someone else speak, please.
What did you think of my memory of it when I was watching it when it went out? Well, it didn't go out live, but when it premiered, a lot of people in the comments I noticed when it went to that started being a dreamscape scene. You know, when he was having the nightmare. Yeah. And there seemed to be 50-50 of people in the comments.
Yeah.
Well, some people were going, "Oh, it's obviously a dream scene," which they didn't need to say anyway, really. It would, and then some people were going off about what's going on here, and they didn't. Did you get anything?
Sorry,
about that?
The thing with that number, and we had a creative discussion about this. About
we did.
Do we need to get rid of it? Do we need to move it forward? Do we need to move it later? And if you watch the whole thing through to the end, and then watch the next scene, you get what it was.
Yeah,
exactly. They're going, "Oh, I don't get what's going on. I don't get what's going on," and you don't watch the next scene. That's when it's ruined for you. There's a lot of it's like a big reveal moment in a musical, or
it's like in a film, isn't it?
At the end of Saw. At the end of a Saw film, what you've just watched is not what you've just seen, and that's kind of that number in a small chunk. It takes something, throws it out to the obscure, and then brings it back to
I also think it would come down
and
to
it plays it cleverly to the audience without dumbing it down for them to go, "You're about to watch a dream." Like it's very go through it, but.
I didn't want it. I didn't want anyone to know it was a dream until we find out it was a dream.
So,
and without staging it, that's very hard to do with just audio, which is why I think a lot of people were a bit confused.
Were the people that were saying it was obviously a dream sequence? Were part of them knew about the music or were involved in it?
No, I think, and I feel very snobbish saying this. I think Ryan and Kieran know what I'm going to say. They're probably used to how you structure a plot and how you structure a moment. Yeah. It's also a reference to Book of Mormon, again, because there's a whole sequence in that show called Spooky Mormon Hell Dream, which is very early on in Act 2, and he ends up in hell, and they have this whole song, and he wakes up and it's all been a dream. I think as the song goes on, you're meant to say, oh, well, this is obviously a dream because it's looking into the future and things like that. But could it work as not being a dream? That's an interesting way of looking at it. That's certainly a discussion for some point.
And we did have a bit of a discussion about that, didn't we? But on that point, though, of it being a dream and taking it out and making it, fantasy, I also tried to replicate that in the set. So if you watch that number on the YouTube video as well, the whole set comes alive, and it's almost that obscure world that wouldn't be reality. You're in this fantasy world now.
Well, it sort of
gives
like
you
a
that
face
idea
normally,
of,
and then it
where are we?
came alive more.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the whole tower having a face was totally accidental. I wanted the tower to be caricature, to give it that sort of typical musical style. And then as I was looking at it and listening to the number, I went, it looks like it's got teeth. It looks like it's got eyes. And then I just toyed with this idea in my head of, okay, if I made this practically, because the whole set was designed to be practical. I mean, at the bloody London Palladium, but practical with as much as we could. I mean, with theatre technology nowadays, we could probably do that in any theatre with a different staging of the facade. Yeah. However, as I looked at it, I went, okay, well, if those were canvas and backlit with lighting and then pixel bars, yeah, that would work practically. So I thought, hey, let's pitch it to Nick. So I think I just sent some references to you, Nick, didn't I? And said, what about this? And we just went, let's do it.
Yeah,
to really enhance on it being in a dream, and hopefully that would play across.
And also, I remember we had the idea of the kind of the steel arches of the tower. If we were to stage this practically, what I would want to happen is I'd want the arches kind of forming the depth of the stages to go.
Yeah,
like
so
the whole thing.
So if you look at the frame 2 of that number, the whole steel beams behind it. I think there was meant to be 3, but I think I reduced it to 2, just because of how ridiculous, in practical terms, the fly bars would be. They're all offset. So if you look at it, it's actually the same steel fabrication, but slightly different, getting narrower and narrower to give the depth perception, and they're all on twists. And also, front beam would be the first twist. They would all come down as one, and then twist out different angles to give it that twisted reality.
And also, Ryan came up with an idea.
Stage,
if we look at this in the future, you'd have Ryan's costume, if you have Jamie's costume, be slightly different than it was for the whole show.
Yeah.
So you're planting these ideas of familiarity and twisting it on its head.
I think adding something that's I don't know how much people know, because this has been discussed post obviously the show, the ideas of continuing how this may go on in the future. What I'm not 100% sure is massively obvious in the current iteration of it, because it runs as one piece. The idea of Carnival of Dreams, yes, is that it would come more or less at the start of Act 2. So the idea that Nick was saying earlier about how the confusion, to be honest, is actually exactly what you would want when you're watching it in person as well. The differences and the subtleties would be in it right from the top of Act 2, and you wouldn't actually realize you're in this sequence until obviously the number kicks off into its full scale thing. Yeah, I just thought that's an interesting tidbit.
Which is why we open with the reprise of We're Theme Park Fans on YouTube, going into the
what is difficult as well, like Ryan said there, is if, and hopefully one day we might be able to get this onto stage in some form or another, that would be a different show to what we put out there. Because what we have to remember is that the production that we got out is a concept album that we've then turned into a bit of a YouTube video. And from my end point of view, I wanted to make it as realistic as possible. So going forward, we then have a base plate of, okay, this is the set design, basic. How are we going to adapt this for the stage? Yeah. So then we can adjust it and tailor it, but gives us a stepping stone in the future. And as we were going through writing different versions of the songs, we went, how would this work as a film? How would this work as a book? How would this work? And it was very touchy sometimes of going, guys, it's going on YouTube as an album. It's a concept album. Let's remember that. So there are moments in there that don't quite work because they are meant to be seen more than be heard.
I mean,
we're not at that stage yet, you know.
That whole Carnival of Dreams,
those, you know,
that whole Carnival of Dreams sequence is meant to be, especially when the zombies come out with chainsaws and stuff. It's meant to be nuts. I mean, I always say, write what you would like to see or hear. So even just coming up with the preset, I would say and by that I mean what you see when you enter the theatre, which in our case is the Blackpool icon with a roller coaster, airtime hill behind it, airtime, and the kind of the street signs and the little houses and things. I would say to myself, as a theme park fan, I would be so excited to walking into that theatre and seeing that set, because it's absolutely sums it up. And I don't think a scare maze has ever been characterised in a musical before, so I think we've done that for the first time. And you would want zombies coming through the audience with chainsaws, and you would want strobes going everywhere, and kind of, I hate to say it, but you really would want that moment to be immersive. I think...
And also the shock value as well. As I was listening to the soundtrack over and over and over again to make sure that
the cast recording
changes that need to be there, any changes in the lighting needs to be there. If I'm changing an LXQ, what point is it coming in? What preset are those lights? Are they going from red to an amber? Or what colour are they going to then? So I listened to death to that song. And right at the end, I thought it crescendos up to this big smile for the souvenir photo. Anybody with a brain cell would go strobe light, done, because that's what a camera does, and that's what you're doing. Me being the theatrical
fire,
just craziness that I am, and pyromaniac, thought to give a shock value to this, and to also disguise in reality what would be a huge undergoing scene change, whilst that flash, from the second that flash goes, the back set would be striking, the bed would be rolling in with Jamie's character on, ready for he shot up Bolter out up in bed.
Yeah.
What else would make the audience go, oh, wow, oh, that was amazing, oh, I love that, and give you that time? Pyro, because you're not expecting it. And in a scare maze, you should always expect the unexpected. So along with the strobes, which you have to have, imagine if you had these pyrotechnics. Not only came off the stage, but off the tower itself, above the audience almost, to give that shock value of, wow, and then you're back into it. I just thought that was such a great moment that, again, also on video, doesn't quite come across. You know,
it would be very theatrical, which is what, you know. But all from writing the show, I thought, to go what Kieran was saying, this is a real musical. And someone just asked a question, what musicals influence, and there's a lovely story about the kind of what we call the 11 o'clock number, which is the big moment. And Jamie, after he's done in this, he's seen his future unravel and the mistakes he's made. He has this kind of what we call the mid-course breakdown, and we've drawn influences from lots of musicals in the show, like Wicked, Les Mis, other what comes to mind that we reference.
Specifically for the mid-course breakdown, we knew this number needed to happen, and I remember having a conversation with Nick, and I very much took a liberty and said, Nick, please write me the equivalent of A Rose's Turn, which is Gypsy.
No, I said, because you said it could originally be a duet between you and Coasterbot.
Yes.
And I said, okay, that's fine.
Oh, yes, I remember this now. Yes.
Bear with me, Ryan. What if I gave you A Rose's Turn? And by that I meant we bring all the songs back and twist them around. And you went... Don't toy with me, Nick.
That's very funny.
Are you giving me my chance to be Patti LuPone?
Oh, Patti.
When she's not having flowers thrown at her head. But I think... But again, that moment works so well dramatically because you're bringing his internal thought process is all going mad. And yeah, so we were referencing Gypsy with that moment. We mentioned we reference Sweeney Todd in there as well. We reference Evita in the Latin tango-y number.
Yeah.
We reference Wicked at the end of Act 1, where Ryan got to live out his dream and sing the Defying Gravity belt.
Okay.
I mean,
And
even
also,
I
was going to say, there's another reference in there from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang almost in characteristic songs that I came up with. Unless you remember that, Nick. For
No.
Theme Park on the March, when we're like, there's a rumor at the park, a hidden creds inside. I was singing that along to myself and think, because we had a bit of, creative leeway here and there to come up with different things. And I just sat there and thought, wouldn't it be funny if, just to sort of take the mick a little bit, but not enough, because there are some people who are like that out there, but, want to know every little detail about these rides, and, they are well-to-do. And I thought, how funny would it be if these were like the professors and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when they're around the car and they're talking about, they've been kidnapped and they're putting the wheels back on it and trying to figure out how it works. If they're talking about, oh, I wonder if it's this hidden cred, or what about this ride? So that was like a reference guide for me, and that made it into the.
They're all very POSH theme park fans, are they?
Yeah.
Reminds me of Sir Algernon a bit then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can do an impression of Sir Algernon, but that'll come another day.
That's the hook.
That's the hook.
It's cool stuff like that I didn't notice, and it was there if you want it to be. But it's also great for the people doing it, because it gives them the creative freedom to come up with their own character and then kind of put it into the recording.
And I have to say now, whilst we're on that point, this was such a collaborative effort that it wasn't just a case of, no, this is the song, this is how you sing it. If we as creators, as we were singing the songs, went, oh, I really quite like singing it this way, and we then sent that back to Nick, and Nick listened to it, he'd go, oh, I like that. Or actually, change this line to be like that as well. And collectively, we just made this show our own in different ways. And, if you listen to little bits, you can go, oh, I did that bit. That was me who suggested this. And that was them who suggested that. And it's so nice to hear it all together and it be blended as one, and it's just... Like I don't think people really understand how much collaboration went into this. It isn't solely one person who's responsible. I mean, Owen is responsible for an awful lot of different number parts, but is truly
that's the joy of musical theatre, is the most collaborative art form there is.
Yeah.
And because one thing, so say if this were a real production, I would want to change a lyric. I want it to be, or a phrase. I made a phrase a bar longer. That affects the actor's choice, the choreography, the lighting, the sound design, the set design, the orchestra, the direction. So everything is a kind of ripple effect, which is why they're so hard to get right. And what I loved about doing this production was we had no producer breathing down our backs. We could do anything. We could go into a scare maze with zombies and chainsaws, and we could have a roller coaster represented on stage if we wanted. And it was that creative freedom that just made everyone have a real laugh with it. And I think it was so fun. Every Saturday for about sort of 2 months we would meet and just have these amazing brainstorming sessions.
I think it was every day for the last week for me and you.
Yeah, a couple of times a day.
For the last second, it was like, right, I better go get an hour's sleep. It's premiering in an hour.
And I'm so grateful to everyone who was involved, from Jack Siltstone, who recorded 2 words, to Owen, who probably recorded half the score, and Dylan and Kieran and everyone else name ending in N. It was just an absolute joy to be involved with. And it's so nice to be able to talk about it again. And there is an album online. I know someone asked, is the album online? You can purchase it from anywhere, really. And it's on Spotify and Apple Music. Is Spotify working? I don't know. I don't use Spotify.
No, I use iTunes.
I don't know if it's still down.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where'd you see it going now, though?
Oh, I mean,
that is a whole can of worms.
There are 2 answers to this. Yes, we would love to move it forward and stage it properly, but part of me just thinks it was such a piece of the time that it would be a shame to kind of, we'll
tarnish it.
we would never get that reaction again. We would never get the coverage, the cameos, the Spoons magazine, the Neil Patrick. It was so many things coming together to create the perfect product that we all wanted it to be.
Sort of a product of circumstance, wasn't it?
Yeah, we could move it forward, but I'm kind of happier with it just sitting there being what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't move forward, but I'm perfectly happy.
You could write a
with the product.
sequel.
Oh, I could. You know, there's always the thing of does Jamie go to Cedar Fair? And
that's very funny. The only thing, like, if this didn't move forward into any physical workshop or staging, and that has been talked about, and it did get very, very close at one point, but upon reflection, 12 months later, I do understand where Nick's coming from, and from a very selfish point, the only thing I would really like to be able to do with it is everything that we've got so far. I just wish there was a way I could get into a studio to be able to record it, because you're your own biggest critic, and I've not listened to it all the way through properly since it came out, because throughout it my mic quality is not my favorite thing, and obviously you then critique the stuff that you've been working on for a really long time. So personally, that's the only thing that I would love to be able to do, is get a master version. But I completely understand what Nick is saying, and
I think in a sense as well, from what Nick's saying, it's had its world premiere. If we did it again, it'd be the revival, and the revivals are never as well documented and perceived. It's just, oh, they're bringing it back. Oh, that's great. And you have the fans that'll, jump for joy, and then you have everyone else who's like, oh, I didn't know it went away, because that's what happens. Once you've had a world premiere, it's that's the thing with them.
What I wouldn't be adverse to doing is just doing a one-off concert of the original product and getting a chance for people to react off each other as actors, but also an audience. I think that would be really, see where the laughs are, see everyone clapping along with spoons and chucking spoons on the stage or whatever it is they'd want to do and stuff. And I'd love to see that happen, but it doesn't have to. Yes. I think it was such a lockdown. I mean, even it's the title is the original lockdown cast recording. It was such a product of its time that it would be a shame to do it again for the sake of doing it again, if that makes sense.
Can I just I've just got to go somewhere a second. Keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just resume as host for a second. We've got a few comments here, lads.
Stacey said, would you do music videos based on individual songs? Now, that's really interesting, because I remember in this process that Nick had this idea of almost this. I mean, Nick, you'll have to take over at some point to be able to talk about this better, but not only music videos, but Nick had this idea of getting it on its feet in a way that you've never seen before, almost like the whole musical does happen through a vlog, which is really cool.
I think personally that's the most logical way of making this new, but still keeping it the show.
Yeah.
Because I think that would work. It fits the theme of the show, but also would be new, in a sense.
I mean, even just doing a music video of Everyone's Welcome at the Bar, I think would be a wonderful idea, and that has been kind of floated around, but it kind of, who sings it and who dances it, and
that's it.
Money gets involved, and that's that's a difficult thing.
And we need a bar.
We need a bar. Kieran can build one in a day, probably. But it's
not
kind
quite a day. You're pushing it there. A model of a bar in a day.
I'd forgot. We do it Lego. I'd forgotten the idea of doing it through vlogs, and I think that makes sense to me. Even releasing it as a series of vlogs, and you could do some quite meta things with kind of comments and stuff like that. But even staging it like that would be, if we took it into a theatre, a completely different way of doing it would be the use of mixed media, in the fact that you see everything from the point of view of a screen with all the insanity happening around. There's a musical called Dear Evan Hansen, which does that a lot, and Jersey Boys had kind of filmed footage and stuff that would pop up on a screen, and the dreadful Bat Out of Hell as well. No one understood why.
You thought about doing animation?
It's so expensive. I mean, it'd be lovely to do anything
Like
with
stop
it.
motion.
Well,
But why?
yeah.
Because you said you
On
want to
that
take
point,
it to. Yeah.
On that point, there, Mike, with the animation, it's funny you say that because I think me, Nick, and Sean sat down one night and just went, "Well, look, we're doing this as quick and rough ready as we can because I think we only put the last final piece together in the last 3 days of all the lighting and all the set changes in the last 3 days, and we just went, how possible would this really be to have all the lighting change smooth, precise, animated, have all the show sequence come in animated, maybe put animated people in? And we just thought, one, it's going to cost an awful lot, and two, is it worth it? Is what we've got just enough? So I don't think animation would work for it either. I think it would be, if we were to do it, it would be one number. Like maybe Carnival of Dreams would be the best translator to an animation because of the color palette alone. I think that'd be maybe as part of the blogs, just talking live now. If we do it as a blog, the blog section in the dream happens. It's a dream but cartoon, a bit like Take on Me, where it's like he's a cartoon world and steps into the real world kind of thing. But I don't think a full animation of the thing would work. I think it would.
It'd be lovely, but it's just not something we have the ability to do.
So you wouldn't do a sequel then?
I was just going to say, seeing Stacey's question, the thing is with a sequel, again, this is, I don't know, we had, after this came out, there was a lot of discussion as to about how would we make this into a full 2-act musical, because more music would need to be written, more story would need to be written, and we did come up with a full story that takes not only Jamie's character, but Costa Cassie's character and Zac F. Stone's character from point A to point B to point C, and they had a full like ribbon tied at the end. So a sequel, I don't even know where you'd even begin. As Nick said, maybe they all go abroad, and it goes in between us two style.
The joy for the show comes from the fact that everyone involved is part of the theme park community in the UK. So the sequel to me would be that Jamie and Cassie, now happy together, go to America and experience the joy that is Six Flags.
Ryan didn't look too happy about that.
And
no. It's
and then you do the same kind of. If we were still in lockdown, you know, if touch words, it happens again because I quite enjoyed it, but you know what I mean. If
wait, what? No.
Please, no.
If for some horrible reason if it were to happen again, he would go to America, and you would have Tim Tracker, and you would have all the American kind of
Adam the Woo,
all these other cool, but you'd have
guys,
all
the here.
Justin Scard.
Yeah, you'd have all the American people do it, but then it just becomes like watching Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
Are we just doing the same story for the sake of...
I was going to say, if you did it in Europe, you'd have subtitles, wouldn't you? Because they wouldn't speaking.
Well, Europe would be the weird third one that no one's interested in. But it just... I think it's been done. And I think it was done incredibly well, given whatever restrictions we had. And...
Do you want to tarnish it?
I don't think we'd tarnish it. I just don't think it... Because it wouldn't tarnish it. It would just kind of be a bit, why do this? You know, if a producer turned up and said, I want to give you £28 million to do the set you want and the orchestra you want and the show you want, yes, we would do it. But it becomes an expense the minute it becomes real.
Yeah.
And
I think personally, in reality, if there was to be a sequel of a new storyline using similar characters, the only way it would work is if somehow after an amazing London production, we did a Les Mis, made a film, and then we went, well, we've got these ideas for a second. Why don't we just make that straight to DVD film? And that is the sequel. That no one
Annie
really
2 was
enjoys
a musical.
much. Yeah, you know, no one really enjoys
fan
as
never
much
dies.
as the first. But it's
you got that on a shirt. You can put that on a
there in
shirt.
some form. But I don't think it would work as a showpiece.
Continuing with Theme Park Fan, the musical, the nature of the industry, if we were to then take what we've done and put it out there for producers and for people to see in full form, it wouldn't necessarily exist in the way that the community loves it, because again, this was stuff we spoke about at length. It would need to be like toned down in terms of the very specific niche that it has to allow access to a far greater audience. So if it did come back in a different form, would the people that loved the musical so much in the first place still appreciate it for what it is? And it's a really hard game to play, I guess.
Yeah, and on that, I think we toyed with the conversations of, well, say this went to America. Who in America is going to know about Pleasure Beach in Blackpool? And are they going to want to come and watch this day in and day out, on a Broadway stage? Probably not. So would we have to then adapt the show to fit in America? So instead of it being Blackpool Pleasure Beach being a Six Flags park, and we change, some of the references to fit their demographic, it wouldn't be the same show, but it would be a show that works for their audience. Whereas I think in the UK, everyone knows what Blackpool is, so it works over here very well. Whereas elsewhere in the world, it probably would fall flat on its face, because it would have to be changed so much that it isn't the show anymore. And that's just the nature of adapting to audiences, unfortunately.
It's difficult, but I think everyone stepped up and did the best thing they did. Again, I have to say massive thanks to Owen and Dylan, because they were,
absolutely,
the driving force behind, getting the best quality out there, and without them it would have been absolutely impossible.
Owen
Dylan
was just incredible,
and Dylan doing the workshops and kind of going through the script, and I think he ended up with possibly like 98 million versions of the script by the time, because he was saving every version, because I was putting in so many changes, and it was just it was one of the happiest times of my life, and I still listen to the album with great glee. Do give it a listen, Ryan, because it is very good.
Oh no, I have listened to it. It's just after the project sort of came to a head, to me, I mean, I didn't watch the premiere because I don't like. I get a bit funny watching my own stuff, anything I've been in back.
Yeah.
Have I listened to it since? Yes. Have I listened to it in the past 9 months? No, but that's because, well, I moved into a different job, and then that all got taken over, and X, Y, and Z. But yeah, maybe I'll resurface it 12 months later.
You should. And people still talked about it at opening weekend in Blackpool, which was nice. So Owen actually got his ukulele out and did.
Yeah, I've seen the video.
Yeah, I was gutted I couldn't make it down. I was really looking forward to doing that flash mob. Because we talked about.
I wouldn't say flash mob. It was more kind of just a very tired Owen just sitting there singing, but doing it incredibly well as always, because that's the kind of talented person he is.
He's fantastic, that guy.
And yeah, it's everything came together, and that's kind of. But never say never for the future of the project. It's just, I don't think it's necessary. I think we did certainly what I set out to do, and what we all set out to do eventually. It would be nice, but it's not necessary.
Well, it took you through COVID, didn't it, really?
Yes.
Yeah. It was something for us all to do, wasn't it, whilst we were all...
Especially in those dark kind of December, January months where we didn't really want to go outside anyway.
What is the outdoors?
And it brought 35 people together for 2 months.
Yeah, and then collectively brought thousands of people across the UK together for one night, which
is what the whole show
should have been doing in person. So
exactly,
which is what the show's based on. Opening weekend at Blackpool, and yes, it was a coincidence that we managed to go. We could get this done in this time, lads. Let's do it.
Well, I think once we had
such a wonderful thing, because we weren't going to do it, were we? We were going to go. No, we still need a week, and then we thought, no, let's do it. And let's make this a special thing for everyone.
Once the kind of February the 6th Saturday night came about, we thought it can't get any more perfect than this. We have to do it then. Because originally it was going to be on my birthday or something like that in July, and it just, no, that's not going to happen. And when it became focus, and you have a... I always think one works better when you have a deadline, because you're not kind of, I'll do it later. We really, really
it's got to get done.
Yeah, for that deadline.
In fact, that probably ties in with the question that we were asked by Stacey a while ago. It says, what did I use to change the lighting and colour of the scenes? Well, I worked with Nick on that one, which was quite a late thing. Each individual lighting change was done on, I'm going to be honest, PowerPoint, changing the setting of a lighting colour. And then I sent the scenes over to Nick, and Nick worked some magic. So they cross-faded over in, is it Apple Studio or something?
iMovie, yeah.
iMovie. And that's all it was, as simple as that. Just one animation slide to another, just crossover.
And I effectively became
great.
the lighting, not lighting designer, but the lighting kind of programmer, because I was choosing how long those transitions would take.
Yeah, and we sat down, didn't we? And obviously, I designed the initial lighting plot and went, okay, I think this should be here, this should be here. And then I sat with Nick, and I was just like, okay, lighting change, Alex 28, whatever, go there. And then it would be, okay, a change. And then Nick would go, what about this colour instead? And then I'd have to go and quickly do something whilst Nick's working on another part, and then go back and go, there you go, check your emails, it's there. A wonderful collaborative effort, and a wonderful time as well. I mean, we stayed up till 2, 3 a.m. drinking the night away whilst doing it.
Yes, you did.
Didn't we?
But that's the joy of theatre. There was no difference between being in an auditorium till 3 o'clock in the morning, or being in a ride, show building, or being, online and doing it. And I remember saying when this all happened, when people, this is a new genre of theatre, and I don't know if it'll carry on. But
because there's TikTok musicals, wasn't it? Which this isn't, but that's a genre that popped up, wasn't it?
Or Zoom musicals and things. Ryan, you were sitting there just gazing at the camera for so long. I thought you'd frozen.
Yeah. No. I'm listening. No, I'm listening. I was just enjoying the conversation. Also reading. I've just figured out how to see the comments.
Yes, I figured that. That's why we'd lost those. Yeah. I think there's one there for you, Ryan, about herbal teas or something. Yeah. Did you have a lot of herbal teas for your singing voice?
Oh, I could talk at length about vocal care and vocal health. In short, the role itself of Jamie is a big thing, and a question Nick kept asking is, if this was to go anywhere, is it a possible 8-show week? And obviously, we'd have to find out down the line if that ever came up. But there was a lot of vocal care done during these recording stints, because you record for such a long period of time, which is quite unnatural for the voice. But I don't want to get too technical and bore everyone with that. But yeah. Anyway.
So do we want to start winding down there, or do we want to have the go at the quiz?
Oh, there's a quiz?
Let's do the quiz.
Oh, let's go for the quiz.
I don't know how it's going to work, though, because last week I did it with Dimitri, and he answered back. But I don't know how it works for the three of you, because obviously someone can answer, and then someone else can go, yeah, that was my answer.
We buzz in. We just go,
Well, Kieran's got his buzzsaw. That could be a... I think we should confer...
I actually don't have a buzzsaw in here.
Oh, as a team? You want to enter it as a team?
Go on, then.
Yeah, it should be all right. Right, Dimitri got 6 last week. It's not the same questions.
6, right.
Okay.
You're going to enter as Team Theme Park Fan. Well,
Team Theme Park fan.
It was kind of just generic theme park questions.
Okay.
I was going to make it about
theme park. This, then, really?
Yeah. There's some easy ones and some harder ones.
I was worried they'd be about the musical.
What is Jamie's surname?
Okay, number 1. Which Thorpe Park roller coaster is themed around a 1950s drag race?
Stealth.
In this country?
Stealth, yeah.
It's Stealth, yeah.
Stealth.
My favourite. That's my favourite UK coaster.
In 2001, Alton Towers retired its ice show following the adventures of which popular animal?
Peter Rabbit?
Peter Rabbit.
Yes.
Oh, very good. I would not...
That's before your time, was
Ryan, you're the theme park enthusiast here more than I am. You should be on this.
I love it.
Spinball Whizzer sits in which area of Alton Towers?
Adventureland.
Yes. On June 27th, 2010, which pop star performed Alton Towers?
Pink?
Yeah, Pink, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're doing good at this. Come on.
True or false? Galactica's VR had an audio descriptive version.
Surely
I would
it's
say
true.
true.
It has to be true.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
true.
say false.
I
Oh my
used it.
god!
It is
Oh,
true.
amazing. How
Well,
was
it's 2
it?
against 1, so there we
It
go.
was quite funny because near the end you hear a voice going, "The space station is spinning out of control." No one else ever
Oh, I
used
wish
it.
I'd have done that now.
It was like the second or third time I went, and it was on the video with that woman, and it was saying you could have like audio
Eve.
script. I'm like, that can't be right. I'm going to ask for that, and then I got it.
Oh.
The newest Scarefest character of the Spooky Crew, introduced a few years ago, is a witch by what name?
Gretel.
Oh, he's got it.
Is it Gretel? Okay, good.
Gretel.
I'm glad. Yeah,
I'm going
amazing.
to get all of these.
I knew that as soon as you said it, I was like, it's Gretel.
What's the name of the group of spooky spectres that roam Tower Street in the daytime during Scarefest?
The Ancestors.
Ancestors, yep.
Yeah.
This is a very northern quiz.
Name
Well, we
the...
are two
okay,
Northerners.
we'll let Nick answer this one. Name the area of Chessington World of Adventures that Wild Asia replaced.
Beano Land or Circus
Yes.
Land, depending what
Yeah,
area you're
Beano
looking
Land.
at.
Yeah.
Before the Gruffalo ride was built, what was the previous name of the gift shop that Vampire and Bubbleworks exited into?
Oh, God.
Oh god.
Transylvania Gifts? Must be
I don't know if
Trans-
Nick wants
I
to
have
answer that.
no idea.
No.
Have you got any idea?
Um,
That's
didn't
a
think I'd
spicy
stumped you.
question.
was it the boutique Fangoria or something like that? Or
I don't know if I can give you that.
Why? What's the answer?
Oh.
The answer is Fangtasia gift shop.
Fantasia. Oh my
I was nearly
god! I
right.
didn't even know that.
Fantasia.
Fascinating.
The
What a good
last one's
question.
quite easy. Nemesis Subterra opened in 2012. Which other Alton Towers attraction also opened that year?
In 2012.
Ice Age, yeah.
What? Ice Age was 2012. Oh, good
Yeah.
lord.
I'm
Oh,
tempted
no.
to say not to give you the Fangtasia one because it wasn't spot on.
Well, I said Fang.
But how many did we get right? We got quite a few there, didn't
Got
we?
all the rest. 9.
did.
I'd say 9 there.
Oh,
9!
amazing.
Yay!
Well, to be
Excellent,
fair, there is
excellent.
we
You're a
do
team.
have an advantage in the fact that there are 3 of us, and with
Three of us,
Dimitri,
that
it was
is
just
true.
1.
Yeah.
There's a few in there that I would not have got.
I think
Even
Dimitri
if,
didn't like the fact he got the last week got the Sanctuary one wrong. He thought it was themed on 13.
What?
And as soon as I said
Oh,
Smiler, he was like,
no.
"Oh yeah."
I thought I thought you were going to say he got the subs. He got the subs.
Oh no, he had
subspecies
different
one
questions.
wrong. First time I ever saw Dimitri without knowing who he was actually in Subterra. This terrifying kind of. He was standing on a fence, and you know he just towered over. It was a vision I'll never forget. It was absolutely amazing. So it's great.
He's
to
a
have
wonderful
him.
man. Very
Yeah.
kind soul. Anyway, oh, I feel like I made everyone quiet about that.
He's a very nice man.
So for winding down, I don't know if you want to mention about Calm while we're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was Dylan's idea, which is wonderful. It's a charity that supports the male mental health, not exclusively males, but the kind of helping mostly males, you could say, with mental health problems. It's a campaign against living miserably. And we thought, great charity, raised £2,007 for it, which is wonderful, including $100 from Alan Menken, which is very nice. Again, another one of those very bizarre moments. And it was an absolute honour to do it for them. I still think there's some adverts sometimes appear for them, so I thought, yes, we've supported them and done really well. And that's it's a very, very good contribution.
I've
of
put a
many.
link to donate in the description. I don't know if you want one
Yeah.
specifically for Theme Park Fan donation
I think
through
that
there.
there is a specific page. I don't know if it's still active or not. I don't know if it has a shelf life, but yes, there is a specific donate
I'll track that
page.
down.
I mean, we're not spokespeople for the charity, but I think I speak for most charities who have it. Any donations would be most welcome, because every single penny a charity gets means the world to everybody involved. So, you know, I don't
And
think
did
it
you wanna-
matters which thing you use as long as the money gets to them. Then, and if you have donated, thank you so much. You know.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention
So
your
it-
social media
it's
links as well?
It's simply justgiving.com/fundraising/themeparkfan. That's if you
Okay,
want to
yeah.
donate. It's nice that it's still there, which is wonderful. Social media. Our social medias or the Theme Park Fan musical social medias?
Well, Either. I was going to go for your individual ones, but you might as well give
Well-
the theme park fan ones as well.
I would, but there's not much going on with them. But yes, it's the show's on my YouTube channel.
They've dashed everyone's dreams now, saying there won't be
I
a
know.
sequel
Well,
or it might not be
Who
a stage
knows?
show.
Who knows? There might be, but there are other things going on at the moment. But yeah, I think it's just theme park fan. That's it. I think for all of them.
It's on Twitter. It's TPF the musical. That's the @ on Twitter. I'm not sure about the other social handles.
It's on Facebook as well. Just search theme park fan and musical. But mostly just show your love for it on YouTube and listen to the album. I think that's the most one can do.
Share it with your friends and share it with your dog.
Exactly. And, enjoy it. And
I don't know where that came from. I'm so sorry. We're having this serious moment, and then it's
There's going to be someone who's played it to their dog going, "I've done that. Why are you laughing at me? I've done that."
Okay.
So yeah, cheers for coming on. Really, that's all. We've overshot 9 o'clock a bit, but
It's all right.
I'll probably ask you on again at some point in the future individually, so you can talk more about your own things, because you've all got a lot of projects to talk about. I think
you should certainly get Owen and Dylan on. They can tell you
if I can do
from their perspective.
What I was trying to get on that, well, talk about it in private, but I know you might be able to get in touch with is it Adam Eldred from Theme Park World Tour?
Yeah, I'm having lunch with him tomorrow, so I will put a word in.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
He messaged me just before this started. I need to get back to him because I've not.
Oh, he's a very, very good soul.
He is.
And then next week,
joy.
Oh, I was just saying, next week I think we've got Dan Marks coming on. We're talking about his Alton Towers being a ride up and Drayton Manor being a ride up, and then I'm going to go heavy into getting excited for Alton Towers opens next Saturday.
Oh, yes.
I'll be there.
It does indeed.
I'm going to Paulton's Park on Sunday.
Ooh,
which will be lovely.
Tornado Springs.
Yeah.
I am. I'd be working opening weekend, Friday and Sunday. So if anyone's staying in Alton Towers Hotel, hello.
Anyone's on park on a Saturday, hello.
Hello.
In the dungeon. Yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful season. It's nice that it just seems like yesterday that was Halloween. It's utterly bizarre.
Oh, yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
It's
nice to get back to COVID. Well, not COVID free, but it's going to be a lot more normal than the last 2 seasons have been.
Let's hope so.
Yeah,
let's hope we don't see. Let's hope we don't see the lingering effects of COVID go on and on and on and on and on when it comes to parks kind of using it as an excuse to be lazy. That's what I'm worried about around the world, because that's every time a business cuts down something, with COVID. So you don't really mean that. You're just kind of cutting back on things, aren't you? Anyway, but hopefully we won't see that. And it's been a joy.
It's nice to see people again.
Yeah,
it's such a joy to see, like, especially in a theme park setting, the regulars come back.
Yes.
People that haven't been for a while because of whatever reason returning, and
that's me.
It's nice, and yeah,
and it's nice that you are performing in the dungeon. I mean,
I didn't know if we were allowed to talk about that.
We shouldn't. But...
Well, and Ryan, you are performing at the hotels, which is great.
Yeah, Alton Towers Hotel, Friday and Sunday. Sometimes I'm in Splash, depends on where they need me.
Sometimes you're in the lodge or the enchanted.
The teepee.
Yeah. And I don't perform at all, which is wonderful for everyone. And it's been lovely to talk shop with you all.
Yes. Yeah.
As I say, I'll have you all again soon, probably individually, talk about your own things. I know I want to talk to Quinn about his haunted house model.
Mm.
We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
And
cheers for coming on.
And being the voice of Crop Drop.
So
Crop Drop.
You what?
Is the voice of Crop Drop?
Yes, that's me.
That's a hook for the next time we see you.
That's not a hook. That's a hook. Sorry, I've used that gag already.
Please gag yourself with it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you
so much.
That is that.